Hi, I'm Lauren Westwood. Welcome to my vlog, which is a guide on how to structure, write, and edit a novel. In the last few episodes, we've been through quite a lot. We've been through concept, character, problem, and resolution. So hopefully you've got a few pages full of notes. But the question now is, what next? What do you actually do? How do you actually get started on writing a novel? Well, there's no hard and fast rules, but I'm going to, give you a few thoughts on some different ways that you might want to proceed. So I said already that one of the key elements is getting inside your character's head. So if you've done that, you may well already have an idea of where you want to start. Maybe you've got an idea for the opening scene. You can picture the character, hear their thoughts, or if they're with another character, maybe you can, thought a little bit about the dialogue. If so, that's great. Don't let me stop you. Just go ahead and start writing. But what if you're not quite there yet, which is where a lot of us might find ourselves? Or what if you have started and you've written a couple pages and you've reread it and you've thought, oh, this is rubbish. Before we sort of delve into what to write, let's just talk a little bit about how to write. For me, I generally set an output goal for each day. So let's say 500 words. That's a pretty good starting place. So that's roughly sort of one side of a A4 piece of paper, double-spaced if you're typing, or a few pages of a notebook. So the way I generally tend to start is to either make a slightly more detailed outline from what you've already done, or you can start describing the opening scene, or you can start somewhere in the middle. It doesn't really matter. Our goal is to write 500 words. So as I said, you can do more or less. The important thing is that you have a goal. You're going to sit down and you're going to just start writing, because the thing is, the novel's not going to write itself. So, we have to start somewhere and figure out exactly where. I tend to do about 500 words, maybe 1,000 words. I've got another job, I've got children. I think 500 words is generally good enough to get into the flow of it. And usually, I can achieve that in about an hour, maybe less. If you are serious about doing NaNoWriMo, you'll need to write sort of 1,500 to 1,700 words a day, and believe me, that is a lot. Plenty of professional writers, don't do that amount every day. And some days it's going to be a struggle. Definitely don't set yourself out to fail. Try your best, but if you don't get there every day, that's fine. So let's say day one. Where are we going to start? So you've already got your concept in a few sentences. So if you don't have that opening scene in your head, try expanding out your initial idea paragraph a little bit more to get a little bit more detail on your outline. So remember, your outline is your roadmap, and it's there to be your friend, be your sat nav for when you get stuck. So if on day one you don't have an idea of that opening scene, you can just start writing a few more sentences or a few more bullet points or a few more paragraphs just to flesh out the idea some more, and later turn this into more of a full-length synopsis. So once again, if you're struggling for where to start, we need to go back to our basic elements. Concept, so maybe you already have your paragraph that you've written on concept. Character, which is their goals, and then the problems and obstacles that get in the way of the character achieving their goals, how their goals are going to change as the book goes on. And then you have your resolution. So all this should be familiar. So if your output today is just expanding it, filling in a few of the key details that you've done in other exercises. Think of yourself really as the storyteller. So write down in some more detail the story of your book as you would explain it, to your best friend or something. So you definitely don't have to have all the details ironed out. So your goal is to just, to get your details and ideas down on paper like you've already done, but add a little bit of flesh to the bone. So I'm going to give you an example, which was sort of part of an early synopsis I wrote for my Christmas novel, Moonlight on the Thames. So you'll see I've tried to add some detail about the characters. I have an idea for the opening scene and some of the initial conflict that needs to ramp up, between these two characters. So this would be maybe how I would, start to think about it. Christmas is a joyous time, but not everyone feels merry and bright. For Nicola Taylor, it's a reminder that at age 35, she may be a star at the top of the career ladder as an investment banker, but her love life is a lump of coal. As a long-time other woman, Nicola has realized that her colleague and so-called lover, Ollie, will never leave his wife and family, and that, in fact, she despises him. She takes it out on her subordinates at work, playing Scrooge to their festive season. So that was her initial situation. So now here's character 2's initial situation. Dmitry Orlov was once a prodigy pianist in post-Soviet Russia until a horrific act of violence took away his future. 18 years later, he's a music teacher and choir director in London. The elder members of the choir fawn over him, and the younger ones are in love with him, but his dark past ensures that he will always be alone. So those were kind of my two basic character sketches. So then I sketched out kind of my idea for the opening scene, which was that as a last-ditch effort to save her relationship with Ollie, Nicola books a night at a fancy London hotel, planning to surprise him. But that's the night of his children's nativity play, so he cancels on her. So Nicola's very angry and hurt and determined to end with him. When she gets to the train station on her way home, every train is canceled or delayed, and there's a choir singing festive Christmas songs in the station, with people passing out mince pies and mulled wine, and commuters and train staff all joining in to the festive season. So she makes a scene, and she ends up, having a not very pleasant altercation with the choir director, Dmitry. So this is the initial confrontation between the two main characters. So that was my idea for the opening scene. And, because I knew I wanted to bring these two characters together quite close to the beginning. So then it evolves a little bit further. We go back to Nicola's point of view. She goes home. She, sort of later regrets her actions. Her life feels like she's, falling apart. And, she decides that she's kind of developed a bit of bad karma from this encounter. So she wants to apologize. She finds Dmitry. He's playing Rachmaninoff at a church where he goes and practices, and it moves her in a way that she finds very unexpected. They have a discussion about Christmas and why she hates it. Not that she'd tell him or anyone else really the real reason. So for her penance, he tells her, to the next day they're going to go out together if she dares, and that she should dress warm and wear comfortable shoes. So that was how I went from my initial idea paragraph, which was just a few sentences, to sort of a full synopsis. So there was quite a lot that changed, but there was quite a bit that, stayed the same too. So by the end of this kind of initial exercise, I had maybe 2, 3, even 4 pages of, a detailed kind of synopsis about what I was going to write. And so then every time when I would sit down to write my 500 words, I would say, okay, hopefully it's flowing from what I'd written the day before, but if not, I would kind of go back and say, okay, today's the day they need to meet again. Today she needs to feel regret in these 500 words. Um, and the main thing was I just set it down on paper and I kept going and wrote the draft. It didn't have to be the final draft with everything set in stone. And believe me, it won't be the final draft, no matter how much you plan or how brilliant you think your opening is. But the point is that you just need to start out writing something, start in the middle of a scene, um, and write it down, try to get the flow going, and then don't worry, don't reread. That's some people reread, and actually if I am writing a book to a deadline, sometimes I will reread what I wrote the day before, but I'll tell you generally it's sometimes just good to just keep going and just continue to refer back to your outline. What are the twists and turns? What are the character's goals? How is the character's goal changed? And it's all about the journey. Let your writing flow. Get down the beginning, the middle, and an end, and then all the rest is just editing. And believe me, as a real writer, you're going to be doing a lot of editing. So I hope that's given you some basic guidance of how to start if you're stuck. And I hope that you've got something out of this video. If you have, please do share and leave a comment. My next post is going to be a little bit more on how to continue to plan this roadmap. I know some people may not be convinced that they actually want to plan. So to plan or not to plan, that's the question in my next post. Thank you.